Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I will be doing the wine book tag. I wasn't tagged by anyone, I saw the tag on Thoughts on Tomes channel and decided that I wanted to try it as a great lover of wine myself. This tag does not mention my favourite wine, so you know, it's already failing. Where's my Pinot Grigio? Let us begin. The first category of this is box wine. A book that people will judge you for liking, but that you like anyway. And for me, that is Harry Potter. I know it sold millions of copies. I know that the book is incredibly popular, but that does not stop people being judged for reading it, especially being judged by other writers. And by other writers, I mean specifically writing classes and writing groups. Now, I've attended both, and I have gained a lot from them. However, when it comes to Harry Potter, I learnt that the best thing to do is to keep your mouth shut and never talk about it. In fact, at university, it was one of the things that we voted never to talk about, because the teacher said that it was really poorly written. I can remember that. Because obviously you're in your first year at uni and you don't want to disagree with your first tutor, you kind of just, I said nothing, I just sat there and I let everyone else agree that it was a terrible book and that although there were good ideas, they didn't like it. And I was like, yeah, I've read it 26 times, so yeah. I like the series. I really like the series. It did a lot for me as a child. I think people who are writing children's literature should read it, and I think that when you read Harry Potter, and especially now that I'm older and I'm reading classical literature, you can find the influences and the themes that J.K. Rowling has seen before and then reused, and personally I still think that it's a brilliant series, even if you're going to judge me for it. So next we have Organic Wine, a book that doesn't have any added crap in it and is just written perfectly. I chose a book that I read this year, and that is Mrs. Palfrey at the Claremont by Elizabeth Taylor. This book was recommended to me by Joy Winkler, and it's just a very simple story. Mrs. Palfrey decides that she's going to move into the Claremont Hotel to spend her final days there. It's filled with other older people, and she keeps telling people that her grandson's going to come along. And her grandson never arrives. Then one day she suffers a fall and this aspiring actor helps her out and she takes him back to the hotel and people believe that he is her grandson, and from then on she begins to pay him to pretend to be her grandson, and she sees him as a much better grandson than her own grandson. It's a very simple story. The idea completely inspired an idea that I had in one of my future books, hopefully, and it's just, I read it in one sitting. This is another one of those books that I had delivered, opened and read whilst I was sat there. How to explain it, really, other than the fact that Elizabeth Taylor is able to write people incredibly well and make very good observations, and it's these observations that really fuel the novel. And it's quite short, but in such a short space of time she paints a very good picture, but it just follows this one story and then the story ends and you don't really have to unpick anything, it's just there, and I just thought it was brilliant, and I will be rereading this soon. I don't know when, because apparently a few years ago I said I was going to reread a book, and it's still 3 years and I haven't done it yet, so we will see. Next we have Gluehwein, a spicy wintry read. I've already mentioned this in another video, and that is The Lollipop Shoes by Joanne Harris. It's set during the winter period. The character is kind of influenced to do this really big Christmas display at her cafe, and there's a lot of the darkness of winter really influences the plot, and it's just a brilliant book, and I think in America it's published as The Girl with No Shadow. The Lollipop Shoes by Joanne Harris. Next we have Sauvignon Blanc, a really sharp and aggressive read that you couldn't put down, and for that I chose the Chaos Walking series by Patrick Ness. And the reason I mentioned the series is that because when I finished one book, I immediately had to start the next. Now, it's kind of a lie there, because I read this one book and didn't have the other two, so I wanted to start the next and wasn't able to. But as soon as I got the Ask and the Answer and the Monsters of Men, read them straight through because they're just those kinds of books that are incredibly tense. They're incredibly tense, and Patrick Ness is a very good writer in creating suspense, and he's not afraid to kill off major characters, and he knows exactly what he needs to do to raise the tension, and even when you think the tension can't be raised anymore, it is then further raised. And that is why I think it's a very good series, and I think that it's actually I think it's probably one of the best in its genre. So The Knife of Never Letting Go was the first one, so go out, buy it, everyone's already read it anyway. Pinot Noir, The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. We all know. A book you didn't expect much from but ended up being blown away, and that, again, I keep showing this book, Public Library and Other Stories by Ali Smith. I really didn't expect much. I'd seen that it was about libraries online, and which was what interested me in it. I know she's been shortlisted for the Booker, but I didn't expect much from that book. And then now, it's one of my favourite books of the year. Chardonnay. A good summer read that was super zesty. And for this I chose Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Hilary Sands. I don't know whether I'm saying that right, but once again, another book I read in one sitting. Very good summer read. I don't think there's any more I can really say about it apart from that it's brilliant. I'm going to call all these books brilliant, otherwise they wouldn't be here. Rosé, a book that has a little bit of everything in it, and for this I chose The Tiger's Wife by Thea Obrecht because I read this book a few years ago. A woman who is telling the stories of her grandfather while she's on the way to pick up his remains, and it's been a while since I read it, so I can't really remember much, but it uses fairy tales, and it's set in the modern day, and it has magic, and there you go. This is why it has everything. It has magic and reality, and for me that's all you really need to have everything. Give me some magic, I'll buy me some tea. Shiraz, a full-bodied book that is dark and juicy, and for this I chose The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. I only read this a few months ago, but the intrigue and the politics and everything behind it, it's a very sumptuous, evocative read, and it's dark, it's quite long, so, you know, don't go into this if you're about to have a heart bypass, because chances are you know, you might not get to finish it. We have Merlot, a soft, easy read with a smooth finish. Anna and the French Kiss, but I gave that to my niece this weekend, so I don't have that book. And so that book, I wasn't going to reread it again, so I thought she may as well have it because she's of the right age for reading it now. And then we come to the last question, and this last question, well, you know I like to use that word contentious. Yeah, I do like to use that word contentious. And this is a very difficult question to answer because I don't know. I decided I didn't want to mention Harry Potter again, otherwise we know I would have mentioned the fourth book. It was difficult. It's still a very difficult question. In another video I've said that it's Peaches for Monsieur le Curé, but I don't know. I've not reread that book, so I can't really say that it is my favourite, but it was my favourite for that video. This is where my dilemma is. Because I have a lot of brilliant books on my shelves, but I don't know which one of them is my favourite. For years I said it was The Lacuna by Barbara Kingsolver because that book really felt like my favourite. But I just don't know. I'm one of those people that would really like the really pretentious favourite book that nobody's ever heard of, but I don't have that, so this is why this is very difficult. And I don't want it to be a book that I've read this year because I've not reread it yet, so I don't know whether I'll feel the same about it again. And I keep looking at one book and thinking, I could say that's my favourite, and I could say that's my favourite, but really it's just because I want to mention it in a video. Beggar it. My favourite book is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. There we go. I may as well say it because it's true. It's my favourite. Well, can we say this? Can we say this? Can we say that my favourite book is a children's book? Yes, we can. My favourite book is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This is the first book I ever owned. We didn't have a lot of money. We'd been reading Harry Potter to us in school, and so I asked my mum whether I could have it for my birthday. And she went out, and obviously we didn't understand that Harry Potter was this big thing with multiple books, and neither did she, so she went out and bought this book. And this book at the time, I think, was quite expensive. I don't have a dust jacket on it, so I don't know whether it had a dust jacket when I got it. And over the time, it's fallen apart. And I keep thinking I should buy a new edition, and I don't, because there is so much history between me and this book. The book that I took it to my nan's, and my granddad used to have this thing of, before they gave us a video, he would watch it to see whether it was suitable for us. And that's not what happened here. I showed him this, and he took it. And I knew that I wasn't going to read it straight away, because I didn't have the first 3. And so he took it and he read this, and he had it on the Sunday, and he'd finished it by the Thursday when I got it back. And then I got the first 3, and he had those as well, and he read those, and then finally I was allowed to read them. I think that him reading them and then me reading them, there was just this... See, it now, where's the page? Here. It's falling apart here. I've had to glue the pages back together there on page 304 because it's falling apart. And I think there's just this relationship with this book that I'm not going to get with any other book, and the history behind this book, so therefore this is my favourite book. And it's my favourite book of the series, and it has all these marks from when a 7-year-old me tried to trace the dragon off the cover, and it has torn bits where I took the sellotape off to try and make it so that I could see the spine when it was on my shelf, and it has memories. So yeah, there we go. That's it. I made a cup of tea a few minutes ago, so now I'm going to go and drink it. And that was the wine book tag. I don't tag anyone, I wasn't tagged by anyone, and until next time, that is all.